everyone, it's Cosmo, and welcome to another memory card. This is the series where I like to talk about games that I've been playing recently, or just show off something that I think is really cool. And today I want to talk about this very disappointing horror game called Junji Maniac in Infinite Jail. I'll start by saying that I am a fan of Junji Ito. He's one of my favorite manga artists. I've read a bunch of his stories. I credit him with getting me into other anthology horrors actually. Stuff like the 100 Ghost Stories That Led to My Death. I really appreciate his work. But with all of that said, most adaptations of his work that I've seen have sucked. The two anime series that I saw, Collection and Uzumaki, I think they were marred by both terrible animation and pacing that detracted from the original stories. I haven't seen Maniac, so I can't really speak to that one. But you also have the Tomie films, which range from terrible to still bad, but enjoyable only because of how cheap they are. And this game, as you'll soon find out, really sucks too. And it's the kind of sucky that gave me a disappointed feeling because I really do think this game has a couple neat things going for it. Things that probably could have saved the experience if they just put a bit more thought into it all. But I don't even know where I want to begin with this game. I guess we can start with the fact that this game is largely uninspired, which is a shame to say because this is a game based on the works of Junji Ito. We've all played or we've all seen horror games like this before. These walking simulators where you have little, if any means at all, of defending yourself. I'll let you guess what kind of game this is. There's a lot of slow walking, slow running, reading notes, waiting, and just anything else you can expect from a game like this. These tend to be my least favorite types of horror games, and also what I consider the schlockiest, and usually you'll find that they rely on having a decent atmosphere to be the least bit engaging, but I can't give the game full points there either. I mean, it's fair to say the game is eerie, sure. I think they nail the footsteps in the distance, the visible enemies lurking around for you. You know, you can hear the wood creaking as you walk over it. I'll even admit the game even gave me a good couple scares where they don't jump scare me or anything like that, but I would turn around to see an enemy right behind me. I enjoyed that stuff. I like that. The problem is, so much of that creepiness is mitigated by the fact that this game is so poorly designed and it doesn't play very well. It's so easy to evade enemies or defeat them by pushing stuff into them or just laying down these traps. Seriously, look at this. All you have to do is put it down and watch the most pathetic death in gaming. And I don't want to pretend I had a perfect, flawless playthrough. I did get caught a couple of times, but one, that was early on when I was still learning the game, and two, there was no deterrent to being caught. All it did was teleport you back to the last safe room you visited, and in some cases I can see that being useful for getting back to another part of the map quicker. If they really wanted it to feel punishing, maybe I should have lost items or something as well. Also, like I said earlier, you move very slowly in this game, and that made me more annoyed than worried about an enemy potentially catching up to me or anything like that. And check this out too, these statue enemies are just deaf and blind. Like, I know they're headless, but take a look at this. They cornered me on a staircase, two of them, but I was still able to slip out of their grasp. This was the exact moment where I stopped caring so much about being stealthy, which this game also puts importance on. I don't think I ever hid in a closet once after the tutorial. And that also kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about. The difficulty in this game is very inconsistent. The boss fights. And yes, this game actually does have boss fights where you'll have to stay out of the line of sight and run away from enemies. But they're so annoying. Like in this one, for instance, you have to run away from a detective and knock over these things as I'm gonna spoil this game by the way, I don't care, as she tries to arrest you. But she is so OP. She runs faster than you do, and she will always catch you if you don't have the perfect route. You can bait her out to the statue and knock it into her so she's stunned, then you can go to this lever and open the gate to get to the thing, but then she'll either be way waiting for you as you turn the corner, or she'll catch up to you and shoot the lever to get you back inside and then arrest you. Don't forget that you run slow as shit in this game, and did I even mention that you have a stamina bar that regenerates at a snail's pace? In another one of the game's routes, there's a second boss fight against the same detective, but this one I found considerably easier. All you have to do is run away from her and hit these levers found around the house. She is following you around during this part, but once I lost her, I never saw her again. That's the advantage of this mansion being a maze, I guess. There's a third and final boss fight as well, which has you fighting against a statue, where you'll have to, you'll never believe this, hit some levers. But for some reason, this one can throw its knife and insta-kill you if it spots you, despite them never doing that before. I swear this statue can see you past the cover too, so don't be surprised if it just runs up to you and stabs you out of the blue. You can hear it coming, but you can't even run away in time, so you just kind of have to accept your fate. There's a second part to this fight as well, where you'll have to stab it in the back, but you have barely just enough time to catch up to it when it's looking away. If you're even just a millisecond away, the prompt will disappear and the statue will stab you. The challenge in this game just feels all over the place. It's either too easy or they expect you to do everything perfectly. One saving grace that this game has going for it is that it's not very long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. In fact, the first ending that this game expects you to take only takes about an hour to get to. All you have to do is assemble these gold pieces and put them inside the front door, which opens it up, and then you can leave the mansion. The other two routes do add on about an hour each, but that's only if you play the game in full again. Cause here's the thing, after you beat the game once and continue from your last save, you can sleep on the bed in the starting room, and the game will just fast forward the plot to the point where it starts to branch out into the different routes. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I actually appreciate this feature a lot because I didn't want to replay the entire game again. It made the game a shorter experience, which I prefer. And I also think that comes at the detriment of the game's own story, which I will talk about just a bit here. I didn't actually hate this game's story. I wasn't crazy about it or anything, I didn't think it was great, but I think it could have been a lot worse, but also a lot better. I'll just talk about it a bit here. So in this game you play as a whiny amnesiac called Takahashi Yoda, some guy who wakes up in a mansion and is looking for his friend Tomi. Yoda and Tomi had made plans to explore this mansion together because it's paranormal and they're into that shit, I guess. And it's not long in your search for Tomi until you come across Tomie, who Yoda immediately swears to help her and find a way for them to get out of the mansion together, almost like he immediately forgot about Tomi. And then you come across Detective Shimizu, who's also in the mansion because she's looking for a missing person, her brother, Tomi. So you play the game some more and it branches off into one of three separate endings. You either try to escape the mansion through the front doors and sink into the ground after seeing a psychotic Tomie, kill Detective Shimizu after you find out that Yoda was the one who killed Tomi due to Tomie's corruption, who later kills you herself, or you take your own life after Shimizu comes to arrest you. Either way, the game ends with you dying and then waking up in the same bed, the mansion becoming an infinite jail for Yoda. The story is told very loosely. You have to piece some of it together yourself, and like I said, it's okay, but it didn't feel very Junji Ito to me either. You know, the fact that Junji Ito's name is attached to this game is cool in the regard that we get to see some of his creations come to this interactable medium, and I do think they're the best part of the game, but I do have my own gripes with them too. The hanging balloons are an enemy in this game, and they do have one of the more memorable sections of the gameplay. It was one of the only times where you really had to be stealthy and hide away from these enemies, which I really enjoyed doing. There's also a basement portion of the game with the girl with long hair. She wasn't too difficult, you just had to not touch her hair, not for too long at least, or else she would do this to you. But no one in this game steals the show quite like Tomie does. She's a central character in this story, and her scenes almost make this game worth sticking with. Just as she is in her own manga stories, she's very manipulative, she's deceptive, there's obviously something wrong with her, she's beautiful, and I loved all of it. But I think mashing all of these monsters into one story together kind of takes away what makes a Junji Ito story so uniquely intriguing. The way that the game developers behind this game handled the monsters does, at least. You know, the thing that makes a Junji Ito story so capturing besides the art is all the slow dread. You know, it's the build up to that twist or revelation. It's all the stuff you see before the girl at the end of The Long Hair in the Attic, or before the people at the end of The Enigma of Amagari Fault that really unsettles you. Being able to see these monsters at the end is just the cherry on top. Those designs stick with you not just because they're freaky, but because the story went through the effort of showing you how these people became these things. I still think tossing these monsters and characters into the story is cool to some degree because, you know, I recognize them from elsewhere, but they just feel kinda like generic enemies who chase you around or show up for a jump scare. They feel slapped in. Do more to build the mystery around them so they don't just feel like anomalies when we meet them. For instance, you can look at DVR footage in this game. Maybe just have one where we can see footage of this girl with long hair before she turns into this headless whatever she is. Or at least drop a note about her before we meet her instead of Imagine the anxiety or anticipation either of those things would have built in a player before we met her. That's what Junji Ito's stories can do so well. That's what this game doesn't do so well. I'm gonna tell you another reason why this rubs me the wrong way too. Junji Ito himself has become a brand, and this game is perfect proof of that. I'm not gatekeeping or saying other people can't enjoy his works or be inspired by them or anything else like that. Not everyone has to be a diehard fan of everything. I think that's a larger problem with fandom today in general, but another rant for another day. Just, this is one of those things where it really feels like everyone behind this game only likes Junji Ito for his aesthetic. Like there was no more thought put into the writing of this game than remember this thing and remember that thing too. As I said, it's really neat seeing all this stuff. They could have done more with him. And I want to cap this video off by talking about this game's most egregious fault. As you've probably seen in some of these clips that I've used, this game uses generative AI art, which just seems completely tone deaf to me, considering the fact that this game was inspired by the works of a manga artist who has spoken out about AI in the past. And yeah, look at that, you can tell that's the creation of ChatGPT. This looks really stupid. It's the Grim Reaper standing in front of a church, and then there's another one where he has a knife. What is the point of this? This isn't scary, it feels edgy. Not only that, but it clashes with the rest of the mansion tonally. You have an admittedly pretty well designed mansion for a horror game, and then there's just this shitty tapestry hanging up. How does this add to the game at all? You know what a bigger problem of this game using AI art is? Who's to say they didn't use it elsewhere? I mean, it does state on the Steam page that this game also used AI to enhance some of the descriptive text, but who knows if it was also used to design some of the textures, or create some of the sound effects, or hell, write the game script itself. I really wouldn't be surprised. Now, obviously, I do believe some human effort went into this game, but that's the doubt you invite when you open the door to this stuff even a little bit. Here's some more news for you. The company who developed this game got into a controversy before it was released for cutting around 80 people from their art staff to just 20 in favor of AI. That's 3/4 of workers out of a job for ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion. And frankly, I'm surprised a game like this even has a team that large, because looking at their other works, woof. Call me a Luddite, say I'm virtue signaling, tell me how most games these days are being developed with AI to some degree now. Cool, I can deal with all that. I don't like this stuff, and I don't think I ever will. So that also makes me want to say, do not buy this game. Do not support this game. I realize that I'm being a bit hypocritical by uploading a video on it, but let's put it like this. this shit isn't in my Steam library. If you really want to play it yourself, which I also advise against, then you know what to do. And by that I mean just watch a long play on YouTube. Save yourself the trouble. This game sucks, this game was a disappointment, and I hate that it's forever attached to Junji Ito's legacy. But with all of that said, if you look like Tomie, like, yo,